In this video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons of living in the countryside, in terms of what it's like with the pros and cons, in terms of the ups and downs, and I'll also be talking about my experience with what it's like in the countryside. As if you didn't know, I have lived in the countryside my whole life, as I was born and raised in the countryside, as I'm going to be talking about what it's like in the countryside, in terms of the pros and cons, in terms of what it's like and what happens in the countryside. So let's get into it. But before I get into it, I just want to say that everything we're talking about is based on my experience in terms of what I've learned about the countryside, as I'm going to be talking about the pros, then the cons after that. So the first pro is the nature. So if you live in the countryside, you may know that in the countryside you're mostly in the nature, in terms of how most of the time you're in the outdoors. This makes it better as you are far away from the noise, as there is not as much that goes on the countryside, in terms of how there are not as many people who live in the countryside, depending on where you live and your location, as most of the time it's quiet, as there is not as much traffic that comes into the countryside. This makes it better in terms of how there's less traffic that comes into the countryside, in terms of the environment, as there is less pollution in the countryside, which can make it better in terms of your mental health, as it can help with productivity and creativity, in terms of how going outside into the nature can help reduce stress, in terms of how it can help you with concentration, which can help you to get on with things when you go back and get on with things in terms of what it was. And now let's talk about the cons of the countryside in terms of the downside. So the first downside is that it can feel isolated. So what I mean is that if you live in the countryside, you may know that most of the time nothing much happens, as not as many people live there, which can make it feel isolated, as you may have to use social media to keep in contact with friends and family, as most of the time you're on your own, as not as many people who live in the countryside go travelling, in terms of going to places they've never been to, as in the countryside there is not that much that goes in the environment, in terms of what goes in the environment. And the second con is transport. If you live in the countryside, you may know that most of the time you have to travel to places, as in the countryside you're mostly outdoors, far away from places, which can make it harder to get to places, as you might have to travel a long way to get to places, as everything is far away from the countryside, depending on where you live and your location, as you might have to travel a lot to get to places, depending on where you're going, as everything can be far away if you live in the countryside. And if you have any questions or anything you can relate to in terms of your experience with what it's like in the countryside, in the comment section below, and I'll be putting links to more videos in the description down below if you want to check them out. Follow me on social media to stay connected, links below. Click one of the videos on the screen to see another video, and I'll see you next video.